Hi, I'm Jeff Murrah. I want to welcome you to True Texas History. And over the past couple of days, I've been covering some of the leadership of Terry's Texas Rangers, talking a little bit about their background, a little bit about their history. I want to continue that today and talking about Thomas Harrison. Now, Thomas Harrison is a name not a lot of people are familiar with. I mean, they should be, but they're not. He's born in 1823 in Alabama. His family took him to Mississippi. He essentially grew up in Mississippi and then moved to Texas in 1843 when we were still a republic. And on moving to Texas, he went into law. He was a lawyer, set up law in the office with his brother-in-law. His brother-in-law was a fellow by the name of William H. Jack. Now you might go, I've heard that name before. Well, you should have, because William H. Jack was the lawyer who dealt with John Davis Bradburn in the whole Anahuac affair. He was the lawyer. Thomas Jack was involved in getting Travis and his cohorts out of jail there in Anahuac. So this was someone who was definitely involved in some of the early Texas uprisings, and Tom Harrison was his brother-in-law. So they worked together, and then after Texas became a state, Tom Harrison was actually a state legislator from Harris County, and did that for a couple of years, and then later moved to Marlin, which is a little bit outside of Waco, and then finally moved on into Waco itself. Now, when the Mexican-American War broke out, he took a break from all that, went back to Mississippi, and joined a group called the Mississippi Rifles, which was commanded by none other than Jefferson Davis. You see, back then, we had a situation where people put the love of their state above the love of the nation. And it blew people's minds when you even considered the idea, how can you dare put love of nation above love of state? They just didn't understand that. And I don't know if in the 21st century we fully grasp the whole difference in thinking that would have. Now, Tom Harrison being out there in Waco, when the unrest associated with the War for Southern Independence came about, he worked alongside Hiram Granberry in securing some of the frontier forts. He joined the Rangers with a bunch of men from Waco, started off as a major, and eventually became a brigadier general. Now, what's unique about Tom Harrison is that Harrison and two of his brothers became the only set of three brothers that were all generals from Texas. And they are all buried in Waco. So if you get a chance to go to the First Street Cemetery, you can find all three of the Harrison brothers that were generals during the war. Now, before the war started, Tom Harrison was, I don't know what you would call him, a very kind of argumentative, irascible, drunken fella, so to speak. He had some problems with the bottle. Now, after the war, that changed him and changed some of his ways. And he ended up becoming highly involved in the Baptist Church. Now, after the war, the Baptist Church was very much anti-drinking, and Harrison eventually served on the board of... he was a trustee for Baylor University. Both he and his brother James. Now, it's interesting. I mentioned John Wharton yesterday. When John Wharton was murdered at Magruder's headquarters, one of the people that found it was none other than James Harrison, Tom Harrison's brother. Tom, meanwhile, was still commanding the brigade that the Rangers were attached to. Anyways, he had a long and an interesting life. And if you say, gee, that name Harrison sounds familiar, well, it should. He is from the Harrison family that you also find President Harrison, well, actually two President Harrisons, because that was a grandfather-grandson team that each became president. He is related to them. And the Harrison that signed the Declaration, I believe it's the Declaration of Independence. So, anyways, wanted to go ahead and give you a rundown of Thomas Harrison. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you have questions, concerns, feel free to write them below. I'll be glad to get to them. Until then, vaya con Dios, my friend. Goodbye.